This is Aaron Feldman of CatScapes, and I thought it might be helpful to talk through how I designed CatScape 1. You can see on the left, I started with a straight ramp that spoke to the very clean lines and angles of the house that we were putting this up in. And what I ran into there was it used all of the 32-inch shelves that I had. It didn't really show what the brackets can do in terms of offering different angles. And it also, most importantly to me, didn't emulate nature. It's sort of like a rooftop, which is cool, but I really wanted to create something that was more like a hillside or a mountain. I wanted something that crescendoed as it went, so that's why it actually gets steeper and steeper as the cat ascends. There were a few other benefits to altering the angles of the upper shelves of the ramp. One is that it pulled the green shelf back a little bit, which provided more room from that green shelf down to the blue shelf beside the doorway. Without a little bit more room, that was going to be a tricky move for the cats. They were going to have to kind of jump down in a handstand, and getting back up would be, they'd have to do it pretty carefully. So that was an improvement. And looking at other parts of the design, the double shelf, that's how I refer to the ones by the door. At first, I had that angled down so it would be easier for the cats to get from that configuration down to the back of the couch. That's the green line across the bottom there. And actually, that was a good idea, but I changed it because I wanted just to show how the shelves can create something of a cradle, and there was no other opportunity in the CatScape to do that. So I did that, but I kept the angles shallow so they could still do the jump down to the couch and from the couch, and they wouldn't have to take a blind leap of faith that the rest of the shelf would be there. It's fairly shallow, so very quickly the cat lands on the shelf and is happy. The angle on the right has some other significance, which is, I think, a little bit in terms of ergonomics and kinesiology. Of course, the cat could, take off and land from and to a completely horizontal flat shelf. But why not give them the little bit of boost for the direction they're coming from and going to? And that's why I will often position a shelf at a slight angle, and it just sort of nudges them in the direction they want to go, makes that a little bit more comfortable and easy a maneuver. And really, what I'm going for is I want to create environments where they can go very fast. So any little assist I can give them like that is going to support that movement. Another aspect of that shelf is that I brought it as close as I could to the actual entrance of the kitchen. And the reason for that is that I want them to be able to be with me whether I'm in the kitchen, the living room, or the dining room. And it's true, they can just kind of poke their head around, but at least they can have that contact and connection and communication by positioning the shelf right at the edge there. All right, so looking over at, well, let me talk about the configuration below the vent. So whenever there's a vent, I'm going to try to put a cat there because that's where the heat's going to come in, or the cool air, whatever they're wanting, and probably interesting smells and sounds. So that's almost an obvious maneuver to place that horizontal shelf there, and then the long 32-inch shelf coming down. And that 32-inch shelf being at that angle provides that structural support to the horizontal shelf. So it's a very stable floating shelf. So looking over at the triple bracket configuration, using the one triple bracket that we had for the design and installation of this particular CatScape. Gauging the distance of the 20-inch shelf to the ramp was a very important consideration. I wanted it to be high enough away from the ramp that it wouldn't interfere with the cats when they were really running, but I also wanted it to be close enough that it was a reasonable maneuver for them to get up from the ramp or down to the ramp. So gauging that is a matter of knowing the size of your cats and their abilities. This turned out to be about right, and they were able to do it very comfortably once they got used to it. And once again, the shelf to the far left is the one that allows them to peek over into the dining room and keep us company when we're eating there. And that turned out to be a perch where Annabelle spent a lot of time and was very happy, and I was happy to see her there. The 26-inch shelf with the opening that they could either go through down to the ramp or go up to the high 32-inch shelf turned out to be a pretty reasonable angle. The original design that I was working with was much too steep. And if you look at the original design again, the short shelf at the top, at the very top, was because I'd been using all the 32-inch shelves in the ramp. So I was glad to be able to extend that out, because this way, in the final version, the long shelf extends far enough over that not only are they able to get down to the top of the ramp very easily, and vice versa, back and forth, they could actually get over to the double shelf configuration over by the vent. So there were some options there, and wherever it's possible to offer them options, I like to do that, for their own interest and also for when they're playing with each other. It's nice if they have escape routes and dodge each other. A couple of final points that I'd like to make are the variation of angles, for instance, on the ramp. I think it does more than create sort of drama and aesthetic interest. I think it's really useful for the cats. The way human beings are advised to go to the gym and use more than one machine to exercise different muscles, different muscle groups, the different angles actually require the utilization of different muscles by the cats and different depth of muscles. I really believe that this does something for their health and their longevity, as well as their emotional well-being. In those examples of, climbing a mountain or listening to music come to its crescendo, these have an emotional impact, and I think that the movement that the cats have and the variety of movement is a really important experience for them to have in their life. Indoor environments don't inherently provide a lot of varied angles for cats. What they provide are mostly flat surfaces, horizontal surfaces, slippery surfaces, and then maybe some vertical opportunities, climb this side of a chair or a cat tree, but nothing that creates these more nuanced angles like a hillside would, or a mountain, or the limbs of a tree. This has real significance to me anyway for the well-being and the happiness of the cats. Now, speaking in terms of structural stability, what is beautiful and really amazing about this system is that the angled shelves are actually doubling as L brackets. So instead of a 3 or 4 inch L bracket holding up a floating shelf, that ramp is a 3 or 4 foot L bracket holding up that top shelf and holding each other up. Similarly, the triple configuration, the 20-inch shelf going down towards the ramp and the 26-inch shelf with the opening going up to the high shelf and connecting that one in the middle, those two angled shelves are creating so much stability for that configuration. In fact, that one, because we were using the brackets from the factory, not 3D printed brackets, that one was so stable, I joked with my friends that that's where I would stand if there was an earthquake. Now, for liability purposes, I'll say that's not where you should stand, but point is, it's very stable. So that's a pretty magical component of these designs. And I would just point out, there's no other system where you could go from the design I started out with and end up with the design I ended up with. And the truth is, this design could have been totally different. And these same shelves ended up in a different environment, ultimately the home office, which is much smaller, and they worked perfectly well. Once the cats get older, I can decrease the pitch of the angles. I can bring the ramps down closer to the floor. I can make the jumps up high a little bit easier and closer together. This adaptability is what makes CatScapes Cat Shelves unique.